A suburb of Scottsdale, Arizona has no water, literally. Now, this is the town of Rio Verde, and they have been cut off from the city of Scottsdale's water supply since the beginning of January. So it's the beginning of the year, January 1st, they were officially cut off from the city's water supply, which means they're out of water. Hundreds of people are now left without any access to running water, prompting residents to file lawsuits demanding that their services be restored. So they're suing the city of Scottsdale. And I mean, the details here are pretty disastrous. So let's get into it. In a statement published on January 16th, the city of Scottsdale said that it had for years warned and advised Rio Verde, which is governed by nearby Maricopa County, that it could not depend on the city's water supply, particularly during periods of drought. So, of course, Arizona, in the middle of a massive drought, and true to their word, they cut off the community and said, look, hey, you're on your own. I mean, you can get water elsewhere, but you're not going to get it from us. Now, according to the New York Times, the shutoff left about 500 homes scrambling for solutions, and the last of the Scottsdale water supply delivered to tanks in their yards dwindled. So what's going on here is, again, members of this community, they don't have water infrastructure. They don't have a connection to a nearby city or groundwater or anything like that. They rely on tanker trucks once a month to deliver their water to underground tanks that they have in their backyards. So already the situation is pretty stupid. Let's just say that. It's a terrible situation. It's a situation that should have never happened in the first place. But now there are human beings that are stuck without access to water. It's not good. Now, local residents quoted by the Times described flushing their toilets with rainwater, what little rainwater there is, by the way. And in the West, you just had a recent, bunch of storms and rain. That's not going to last. They've also have begun taking laundry to the homes of friends, eating from paper plates to avoid using water. Another local resident told Phoenix ABC affiliate CanXV that his family had been forced to use water that collects in their pool. Like I said, not a good situation, but one that could have been avoided. That said, it's a little too late. A lawsuit filed on behalf of residents last week claimed that Scottsdale had placed Rio Verde residents under an unconscionable amount of stress and anxiety by discontinuing their domestic water supply. Lack of fresh potable water for families to be able to bathe in themselves or running water to flush their toilets is a well-known basic necessity, the lawsuit added. Again, these things are true. I can't disagree with that. The city, for its part, though, says nothing precludes residents in Rio Verde foothills from purchasing water from other sources. The water haulers who have previously hauled water from Scottsdale have access to water from other jurisdictions and is still offering to haul water to serve the homes in Rio Verde. Now, to address the issue, there have been a number of different solutions that have been proposed, including the use of a private water company. Again, that's a little disastrous when you have private companies in control of water supplies. Yikes. And that's water that would be delivered using the same pipe infrastructure used previously by Scottsdale. But there are other issues here with the cost, right? Now, to show you how much that cost would be, one resident said his water bill could now exceed $1,000 a month, or more than his mortgage payment for his family of 5, including 4 children. So, look, maybe a family of 6. That's it. It's expensive. $1,000. The average family's water bill has jumped to $660 a month from $220, and it will get worse as backup sources of water dry up. So, look, I've got a couple of thoughts on this. As I said, one of them might be a bit unpopular. Okay. For one, the unpopular opinion. Let's get that out of the way. Don't build homes in the desert. It's just not a good idea. If there's no, fresh water source, it's probably a bad idea to live there. That said, I'm not blaming other people that live there. Okay. And look, they're human beings. Water's a human right. This situation needs to be remedied in a way that, again, allows people to have water, because water is a human right. But by the way, let's also get to the fact that the people that are living out there didn't think that this would happen. And the reason, by the way, that there are even homes out there without a source of water is the fact that you have deregulation. Okay? As the New York Times points out, over the past few years, there's been a frenzy of home construction in the area fueled by cheap land prices and developers who took advantage of a loophole in Arizona's groundwater laws to construct homes without any fixed water supply. That right there, that's a result of lobbying. You have real estate developers that are only interested in about the monies. And so they say, well, we can get away with exploiting this loophole and going in there and selling this very expensive property. We can make monies. Now, back in the 1980s, Arizona passed a law to try to prevent this from happening, to prevent unsustainable development in what is a desert state. Now, they required subdivisions with 6 or more lots to show proof that they had a 100-year water supply. However, developers in Rio Verde have been sidestepping the rule by carving larger parcels into sections with 4 or 5 houses each, creating the impression of a miniature suburbia, but one that did not legally have to prove that it had a supply of water. And as I mentioned before, residents knew that they didn't have a supply of water because it got trucked in. The trucks would fill up with Scottsdale's water at a pipe 15 minutes drive from the Rio Verde Hills, then deliver the water directly to people's front doors or to 5,000 gallon storage tanks buried in their yards, enough water to last the average family about a month. When the tanks ran low, homeowners would call or send an electric signal to the water haulers for another delivery. So, to be fair, again, they knew that they weren't connected to any source of water. Now, that doesn't mean, though, that the correct response should be, ha, that's your fault, have no compassion. We're just saying that this is a problem with deregulation. Any problem with, again, maybe you should have weighed other options and not have purchased a house when you know that there is not a stable water supply. That said, it should have never been allowed to have been sold to people in the first place because of the fact that it had no water supply, and you had these corporations, these real estate developers coming in and selling this land knowing that this could happen. And then after, of course, they make their money, they say, screw you guys. We made our money. We got our bag. You guys are screwed. Have fun with that. Again, and I don't really blame people for being convinced, because, you've got salespeople. That's what they are. They'll come in and be like, oh, don't worry about it. Scottsdale, they're not going to leave you high and dry. Let me tell you what. No, you're always going to have water. I mean, look at this place. Beautiful. Get the desert. Beautiful sands. Got coyotes. Out there, out on the moon. Beautiful view. Water. Yeah, you'll always have water. Don't worry about it. It's not like we're going to have a drought that lasts 20 years. Oops. Again, in hindsight, obvious, but that said, not everybody knows that these things are going to happen. And some people will again fall for, you know, uh, the marketing. That said, it's also not because, um, okay, there are places that do have plenty of water, by the way, that they could send to Rio Verde without a problem, even under these drought conditions. In fact, one resident, Tony Johnson, said, quote, "I'm surrounded by plush golf courses, one of the largest fountains in the world." Now, this is referring to the 500 foot water feature in the neighboring town of, get this, Fountain Hills. So you have a town that's been cut off from its water supply in the middle of a drought, and then not far, not far away, you have a town literally with a gigantic fountain. Okay, come on. Why don't you just shut the fountain off and close some of the golf courses, and these people will have water? Again, water is a human right. It's a disaster for these people, and I 100% feel for them. And they're stuck there. It's not like they can sell their houses. No, who's going to buy a house with no water? So that's one of the big issues here, okay? It's not like, we can have, what is it? Yeah, it's not like I'm going to be like Ben Shapiro, like, oh, those places that are getting flooded, which is the opposite problem, obviously, that are on the coast and be flooded from climate change. Why don't you just sell your house? Who's going to buy a fucking Aquaman? Same thing, right? Well, who's going to buy your house? The Sandman? I think that's a DC villain. Sam, something to do with Sam. Anyway, point being, they're stuck in this situation, and obviously they need water. So we have to do something about it. Obviously. Water is a human right. Spider-Man villain. Okay, thank you. I thought it was DC for some reason. But look, before we can solve this problem, or maybe after we solve this problem, this immediate problem of making sure people have water, we have to solve the other problems and prevent more stuff like this from happening. And there are 3 factors that led to this. Greedy developers, able to lobby and, bribe politicians to get deregulation. Because again, these houses should never have been built here in the first place. The other thing is far more difficult to, solve. You really actually can't solve, but you mitigate. Climate change. The fact that we have a 20-year drought, which has become so intense that it has drained Lake Mead, might want to do something to prevent even more extreme conditions that are making the West more uninhabitable. That is increasing the size of the desert and, of course, causing more wildfires. All that. So, and the other thing, of course, is people should stop buying land and houses in the desert without a guarantee of 100 years of groundwater. And there are other solutions as well that I have not named here. But like I'm saying, water is a necessity for life. They have to get it from somewhere because it's required for us to live, for human beings to survive. And I don't necessarily know what to do